My background is actually in industrial design. I studied architecture a little bit at the Bauhaus in Dessau. My career took a path towards industrial design, and throughout the years I've designed products, I've designed smart home products, I've designed consumer electronics, and the last few years I've actually gone back to my passion, which was in architecture. And so I have I think a bit of a unique approach to designing products and designing environments that the products sit within, and now designing the environments themselves. And so the need for integration of smart home technology, it's been around for years, this idea of a smart home. It still hasn't been resolved. It's still in its infancy. As an architect working mostly in residential, I have clients daily ask me, how do we do this? What system should we be using? What do we need to wire? So we literally are on that verge of still trying to figure out kind of how many, what types of wires. Are we running RJ45 cables to every room still in the event that we need, to plug in devices when Wi-Fi is not accessible? Or what happens, 3 years down the road when technology changes and we need to update every device that's in every room? So I think the idea of artificial intelligence is fantastic. I love sci-fi. I love the idea of being able to sit in a room and just have the lights turn on because they know, the computer, the home knows that I want the lights to turn on. But we're years away from that happening, unfortunately. But we are trying to plan for that, and it's a really challenging spot to be building environments that are trying to catch up with the technology that's there. So I think on the product side, technology is there. On the physical environment side, it's still kind of years behind, and it's a challenge for, I'm seeing it. It's a challenge for architects and homeowners to figure out kind of how to integrate. Yeah.
Thank you. And Stefane, for you, I want to make difficult questions. I know you are a yoga coach also. So you are an industrial designer. You've been designing great products in lighting, and also for Philips, if I remember correctly. And but I want to go in the difficult part. So if you are a yoga coach, and you're looking more on the interior of people and our evolution as humans, and now how do you match this with machines? And what do you think? How machines can make us better inside? That's
yeah, it's a good question. So my background also, excuse me, is with industrial design. And I got into the industry fundamentally with and this sounds noble, but it was a will to help people by providing them good products that worked well and that made their lives easier. And at one point in my career, I reached a point where I started to question if the world needed more stuff, because that's what we tend to chase after, is producing more and more stuff. And I was speaking with some other people earlier a few minutes ago about that reality, turning the crank of always having new things. And so my career took a bit of a turn to take a more strategic approach to the product development that I was doing, more of a bird's eye view. And as you said, I became a yoga coach as well. I figured that was a more direct way of helping people. And it's true, and all of the coaching that I do is one-on-one, so I don't teach large classes. It's more of a clinic approach where people come into my studio and I run through sequences with them in physical postures and work on fixing problems that are in their bodies, whether it's just wanting to achieve a different level of physical fitness, or if they're recovering from some injury that they've had, or if there are some psychological issues that they're working through. The yoga can help with that as well. So in terms of AI and opportunities in that sense, it's quite interesting. A lot of my clients come in and they have Fitbits on their arms. A Fitbit that measures your physical activity. So of course, me seeing this as an industrial designer, I'm curious to know how that product works for them and how the interface works and what sort of information is useful to them. Anecdotally, with a handful of my clients, some of whom are in their mid to late 70s, it's an aging population that is nice to see. They're moving and doing lots of physical activity. They've started to cheat with their Fitbits. So what they do is they know that they have to take a certain number of steps per day, and the steps are measured by them jiggling through the vibration of the Fitbit. And unfortunately, when they're doing a yoga class, that does not register with the Fitbit that they're actually moving because the vibration is not strong enough. Even though they may be burning 500 calories in a class and getting their heart rate running and sweating buckets, it doesn't register on the Fitbit, and the Fitbit to them is the most important thing. So what they will do before or after class is stand and jog on the spot so that they get the right number of steps in, or they'll just jiggle their wrist while they're driving on this, have their hand on the steering wheel, jiggle their wrist to get the same number of steps in. So there's an opportunity there. There's an unmet need there for people who are pursuing alternate forms of wellness. That technology is not matching up to their needs or their expectations. And also from a wellness standpoint, it's amazing to see the evidence of AI, the evidence of the impact, the positive impact of AI in the medical industry in terms of diagnostics and treatment. Pattern recognition from people's medical records historically, mass analysis of medical records in order to be quicker and more accurate with diagnosis from a medical standpoint. So it's amazing to see that stuff. And also from an equipment standpoint in the medical industry, the robotics that are used these days in terms of a human-machine interaction, not just the doctor operating the machine, but the patient who's a big piece of meat on the operating table being subjected to the operating, to the machine. It's incredible to see. I myself am walking proof of the effectiveness of robotics. About a year and a half ago, I had open heart surgery to fix a defective valve. And it was 8 hours on the operating table, and it was done with a robot. And of course, I was unconscious for the duration of it, but they must have done a good job, and they must have known what they were doing, including the technology, because a month later, I was back running, doing yoga, doing handstands, all of that stuff after having had open heart surgery. So it's really encouraging to see that technology is being used not just to make gadgets for us and for lifestyle and luxury reasons, but actually for life-saving and wellness purposes. So, and I think this is just the beginning of the opportunities that we can see in that industry.
Thank you so much. Axel, you are a senior here. That's the second year already. So, Axel is the strategy director at Frog. So first, thanks so much for a great year of collaboration that ended with this incredible partnership. But I know that tomorrow you will have a session in how to bootstrap a business from your pockets. And so can you tell us a little bit more about it?
I mean, in that context of AI, it's probably, most of you probably know that situation that you actually hear, is AI gonna kill our jobs or are we gonna lose our jobs? I actually had the experience with my son, with one of my sons like 2 days ago, and we actually watched Netflix. And obviously I told him like, hey, something like Netflix didn't exist a couple of years back, and we actually walked into a store to actually borrow a videotape. And can you imagine that we not only had to take the decision to actually rent what kind of video, but on the other hand side, also that sometimes the video was taken. And he totally couldn't believe that this story actually exists and how good the experience is so far right now. If we think about like, okay, Blockbuster probably is not existent anymore, but on the other hand side, we have that very convenient device in our pockets and can do something with that out of our own pockets without actually destroying jobs. So if we want to drive that further, and I'm going to talk tomorrow about it in more detail, I actually have an exercise for you. If you go back home tonight, or you can also do it right now, and let's say you want to open a business, you can immediately do it right now and take your phone, open a browser, and go to the Estonian e-residency website. And what you can do remotely is you can open a business in Estonia right now with all its advantages. On the other hand side, let's say you want to grow that business, you want to do international business, you can right now go to the App Store and download an application called Meet, and you can actually open a bank account in Hong Kong, which used to be very, very difficult, and you had to be super wealthy to actually do those kind of things. And if you even want to find talent, you can again, download another app, which is called Fiverr, and you can actually have distributed talent from all over the world. It doesn't matter if it's designers, coders, etc., and you can basically set up a business. And this is what I will basically dive deeper in tomorrow.
Thank you so
All
much.
in your pocket.
And Massimo Banzi, one of my heroes, I can say.
Thank you.
And you know, Massimo co-founded Arduino, one of the hardware technology most used in the world. And what to me is incredible that, and that's why it's very relevant for what we're doing here tonight, is that this started as a project in the EMEA School of Interaction Design.
Yes.
Can you tell us about what is the connection between interaction design and an hardware product? How this started?
Well, so it started because, so there was this school in Ivrea that was a 2 years master's in interaction design. And I guess one of the concepts of interaction design is the idea that you kind of build something and then you prototype it and then you test it with people and then you keep iterating around this idea that you have to prototype, test, because everything has to be tested with real people. So one of the things that I guess we started doing back in Ivrea is that we realized that there was an interest in working with hardware, that the screen wasn't the only way to interact with people. And so we had to build tools that would allow the students to prototype with hardware. And the issue is that the students in these kind of schools, they're not engineers. They're designers, they're artists, they're cognitive psychologists. So the idea was to experiment with different technologies to figure out how you can create a tool which is still a hardware development tool, but it comes from a design sort of angle. So it's not the most powerful, it's not the most sophisticated, but it is designed to be easy to pick up, easy to use, fast. So a lot of sort of conventional, serious engineers hated us for a number of years. They told us that our tool was crap, and we were teaching people the wrong thing. But it's simply because we were doing things differently. We had a class that was lasting exactly 1 month, and in 1 month the students started from knowing nothing about electronics, and at the end of the month they had a functioning, working prototype. And with the evolution of what we do now, I do the same class in Copenhagen. The class lasts for 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks they have a working Internet of Things device. So it is possible to create tools that enable people to really, create and materialize their ideas, even if they don't have a background in a strong background in hardware or software.
Did you feel, so starting from design, did you feel that the engineer were well accepting what you were doing, or?
No. There was some very interesting interactions with. So there were all these forums for like proper engineers online where they started to comment about this Arduino and its popularity. And there's a couple of blogs still where if you in the comments you write the word Arduino, there's like a hate coming from the people in the on these blogs, because they don't like that. They feel like they were just dumbing down, the seriousness of electronics and embedded software development. But at the end of the day, every time you're trying to simplify and democratize the access to whatever technology, the people who feel that they are kind of the only owner of that technology, they feel that you're trying to steal away, their in a way, their privilege, their. And so that's always, but it has to happen.
We need to bring them together, designers and engineers, and you've been a pioneer, and we have to keep doing it.
No, but what's happening is now that a bunch of engineers have understood that something like Arduino, which is easy to understand for beginners, actually enables them to prototype very fast. So a lot of people use it, even if they're professionals now. They understood the idea. Some of them do it, in secret. They don't want the world to know. But it enables them to be very fast.
Thank you, Massimo. Luis, you are the strategy director at Accenture. So you bring here an enterprise view of the word. But you so you joined Accenture because you were at Fjord, one of the top design company in the world that has been acquired by Accenture.
Yeah.
Okay, and so can you give us the perspective from those large corporations? How do the enterprises are seeing this change happening?
Yeah, well, buonasera a tutti. One of the things that I'm seeing now is that we are talking a lot about technology, but at the same time, never travel so much to see people face to face, never use more paper than now, never have more meetings face to face with people. For me, it's like a dream, no? Because it's supposed that there is a robot doing my job now, just to be able to be here, no? And I think that the more technology we have, the more humanities that people are demanding. On one side, there is a lot of people looking for education in technology, in STEM, no? But at the same time, I'm seeing society there is a lot of questions that are to be solved yet, no? And I think places like this, where you can mix people from different perspectives, can create this new type of products and services, no? Because one of the things we are seeing also is that when you have, the smaller the screen you have, the more important the context, no? And for artificial intelligence, it's very important to understand people, their context, the relationship they have with people, to build tools that are very useful, on top of what they do in their normal lives, no? And in the organizations, what is happening is that still they don't get it. In my case, when we were acquired by Accenture, at the beginning it was something that the goal was trying to put some human face on top of the technology, all the consulting work that we're doing, because they were seeing that the people didn't adopt technology. The processes for change management didn't work because people weren't out of the equation. You have consultants inside the organization talking about the business all the time, the numbers, and finally it seems that many people are realizing that the numbers come from interactions between people. If people don't interact, you don't have a business. And machines have to work on top of that. And before you used to have an Excel, people try to optimize the numbers, but once you have the last number, you don't have anything else. So the people are starting to go back to people, putting in the center, and redesigning the experience, and then the organization again. No? So I think it's a very interesting moment, I think.
Thank you, everyone. It looks like we're done. And so it's the time to give a good applause to our speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think it's time for the continuation of the party and cocktail. Thank you.